So I've been playing Phasmophobia for about a week and a half, and I think I can finally give an honest review of the game. Now for the steep price of $12, I'm sure a lot of you are not sure if you want to get the game or not, but I'm sure you've seen gameplay of it and you're thinking about it. So I'm going to give you guys a non-biased review on the game and tell you exactly what I think of it and what you're getting yourself into. I'm going to give you guys 4 categories. It's going to be graphics, audio, gameplay, replayability, and then it's going to be my overall conclusion of the game and whether you should pick it up or not. Anyways guys, this is Akir and let's get into it. So Phasmophobia is a 4-player co-op game where you and up to 3 other friends can enter a building and try to find out exactly what ghost is haunting the premises. Now this is a horror game and the ghost will try to spook you the entire time you're inside the building. You're going to have to use the tool that you have and the tool that you bought before the mission started to find evidence of the ghost and narrow down exactly what type of spirit is haunting the place. Starting off with graphics, Phasmophobia is a very good looking game for an indie game. A lot of the times for these developers, especially at this price point, the game you get is not very good looking and it focuses more on gameplay rather than visuals. Seeing Phasmophobia, however, is an incredibly nice change of pace. The game does an excellent job of using textures and shadows to make the atmosphere that much scarier. Now the game does look a little choppy at times, the textures might be a bit bland, but that is because they're still developing the game, it is still early. Other than that, the game does not look bad at all. There are a lot of places that look different. The different maps give you a different feel and a different atmosphere, and none of them feel exactly the same. Something that might throw people off are the animations in the game, since they are a bit wonky at times and can actually throw people off.
Look down, Yugi.
Pimp walk, bitch. Pimp walk. What's up, ho?
Why? Who made it? That's inhuman, bro. That's scarier than any fucking ghost.
Hold on. Look at this.
Fucking turn into the fucking. You turning into that gate. What's that movie? That fucking movie where the girl goes like this. Look, she goes.
Yeah, the girl.
The garage.
Dude.
A lot of the times if you look straight up, your character will kind of bend in a weird way and face towards the ceiling, and it looks so unnatural, and it's honestly scarier than any ghost you'll see in the game. But I think there's a certain charm to this. If you're a certain person that needs incredible graphics and incredible animations for you to have fun with the game, then this might not be the game for you. But just know that a lot of these weird animations and janky movements give a certain charm to the game that a lot of other games might have, and you might be kind of familiar with it. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have played some kind of alpha game in the past where you had a lot of fun with your friends, maybe 7 Days to Die or something like that, where everything's a little bit wonky but it makes it funner. While I feel like these animations should be fixed eventually, this shouldn't stop anybody from getting the game. I feel like it's so much fun to see your friends walking around and bending backwards just to pick up the simplest of objects. And if you and your friends are the type of friends that can have fun with anything and laugh at the smallest things, then this will be a blast, trust me. Now, the ghosts in the game, while you can barely see them, are pretty creepy when you do get to see them. They don't appear very often, but they do show themselves once in a while, and they are pretty well designed. They can, of course, be a little bit scarier, I think, but the fact that you don't see them very often and you only see them in small little glimpses, I think makes it okay. The player models, however, look a little bit jankier than the ghosts themselves. While the animations for the players are kind of weird and janky, they also look kind of janky. And by that I mean they look kind of bland and untextured to some extent. A lot of the characters kind of look lifeless and dead. But that's not really the point, since I think it makes it funner. When you're in the house, you're kind of walking around and you see your friends just standing there trying not to get killed by a ghost. And I don't know, I think it adds to the experience. I think eventually they will fix it and they will add better textured player models. But until then, I'm really going to enjoy seeing these wacky ass characters walking around a haunted house and trying to find a ghost. Now moving on to audio. The audio in this game is actually pretty decent. Whether you're outside the building or inside the building, there is some audio that goes along with it, and a lot of it fits the game and adds to the atmosphere. Now the audio is pretty much what makes this game. When you're inside of a house, you hear a constant humming which keeps you on edge the entire time you're inside.
Don't worry about that.
What do you see, Yugi?
I see everything.
And I know a lot of you think that this constant humming while you're inside the house would get annoying, and I was the same way. The first time I saw this game, I was like, oh my god, how am I ever going to play this game with that constant humming the entire time I'm in the house? But honestly, after just a few seconds of being in the house, you kind of tone it out, and it really adds to the experience in my opinion. The game also gives you small sound cues to help you indicate where the ghost might be, like creaking floors, humming, and even footsteps. Now, while there are only a few sound clips for these kind of events, it does get a bit repetitive, but it doesn't take away from the overall experience. The ghosts at times, whenever you get too close, will also make a loud humming sound or a loud breathing sound, which is supposed to scare you, and it honestly does. It's so terrifying, and it comes out of nowhere, and it almost always catches you off guard. Now, the one bad audio thing I have about this game is the voice feature, and it's not exactly the feature itself. Now, you are suggested to play this game without Discord. You're supposed to use the in-game speech only. And this is due to the fact that the game is proximity chat based, so you have to be close to the people that you're with in order to hear them. Now, this feature itself is incredible, and it makes the game so much more interesting and so much more scarier because you don't always have access to the people around you. The bad thing, however, is the closer you are to people, the louder they get, and sometimes it's a little bit too loud for my liking. If you're standing right next to someone, it's honestly so loud when they talk that it hurt my ears and I had to take my headset off a few times. Now, the main menu does give you the option of lowering the volume of each individual player that you're playing with, but it seems to me that it doesn't matter what option you put it to. If they're right next to you, they're gonna shit on your ear, and that makes me almost not want to use game chat completely. Having people scream in your ear while you're inside of a haunted house trying to find a spirit can almost kill the experience, and I had to find ways to work around it. Me and my friends actually had to promise each other that we wouldn't talk very loud at all in order for us to not lose the immersion, since it is really that loud. Now, the game can also be very inconsistent with the volume in general. A lot of the times if you lower the game, the jump scares will still be extremely loud, and I feel like that's the way it's supposed to be because it is a horror game, but you do have to keep that in mind. Other than these problems, I feel like the audio in Phasmophobia is the main thing it has going for it. It is extremely atmospheric, and it makes the game even that much better. So now we're moving into the gameplay. So the gameplay is one of those things where it is randomly generated, so it's going to be a different experience every time you play. The ghost will not always do the same thing. You'll have a different ghost almost every time, and the tasks you do will be completely random. So before you start a game, you're going to be in the truck, and in the truck you can have a bunch of equipment, which most of it you're going to have to buy yourself. So before we get into the main gameplay of the game, there is a money system in Phasmophobia. This money system pretty much allows you to buy things that you need with the money that you got from previous jobs. The more you play, the more you level up, and the better shit you can buy. So at the start of the game, you pretty much grab all the stuff you think you're going to need to try to find evidence of these ghosts and walk inside the house. Now, you can only carry up to 3 objects at a time, so a lot of the times you're going to find yourself having to go back to the truck or switching items with your friends in order to get the evidence that you need. This can get a bit annoying since you do want to carry more things, but it does make the game a little bit harder since you can't have everything with you and you're going to have to walk through the house to get more items. Now, the gameplay itself is pretty interesting because you are really slow, and I feel like that's the biggest problem with this game. You're incredibly slow, and I feel like it has to be like this in order to create atmosphere. So I kind of see what the developers were going for by making you this slow, but it is extremely annoying, especially when you know that something is coming at you and you can't really run away. Now again, this might be the point of being that slow, but it is extremely frustrating and might annoy a lot of people. Now whenever you're playing, you have to use the items that you bought to try to get evidence. So there are books that the ghost can write in, there are Ouija boards, there are cameras and things of that nature. You have to use your in-game chat to try to speak to the ghost, and a lot of the times in the briefing before the mission starts, the people will tell you the name of the ghost that you're dealing with. So you can use this name to try to get a reaction out of it pretty much. Now this is an extremely fun part of the game because you have to pretty much get involved in order to get a reaction. A lot of the time the ghosts are not aggressive, and you pretty much have to say things and try to get it mad in order for it to do anything. Now I think this is a really good part of the game because the ghost does not automatically come out and try to kill everybody, and I feel like if it did that, it would kind of ruin the atmosphere of the game. A lot of the time the ghost will stay quiet for about a minute or two without doing anything, and it kind of throws you off guard because you know that something is coming, you just don't know when. And to add to that, there are about 7 to 10 ghosts that are completely different and they do completely different things, so you don't really know what you're gonna get until you get the first sign. So your job as a ghost hunter is to pretty much do the random missions that they give you in the briefing and try to find out what ghost you're dealing with. Now each ghost has up to 3 different evidence types that it gives off. So for example, a race could give off footprints, an EMF level of 5, and ghost writing. So your job is to find all the evidence that you can on this ghost, put it in your journal, and at the end it will tell you what type of ghost you're dealing with, and that is how you pick. If you complete most of your missions and find out what ghost you're dealing with, then you get a good amount of money that you can later use to buy more equipment for later jobs. Now the length of each game can vary, but I've noticed that with my friend it takes about 20 to 25 minutes if we are trying to complete every single task given to us. Now for the first 5 minutes after you enter a house, however, the ghost will almost not do anything, and your job is to find out where it's located and try to set up in that area. After the first 5 minutes, however, the ghost can get extremely aggressive depending on what ghost you are dealing with. So that does make the game a bit more intense since you are trying to hurry and set everything up. Now this game can be slow like I mentioned before, so a lot of the times you're going to go about 15 minutes without getting much activity, and it is your job to spur that activity pretty much. So there are going to be a number of times where the game starts off slow, so if you're expecting quick, fast action, that's not always what you're going to get, but that is an option however. Now this game runs on a sanity meter, which means that you get more and more insane the more you spend inside in the dark or the more you spend seeing ghosts. Now while I do get this mechanic and its main point in the game, it is more annoying than it is helpful, because if it reaches 0 you can pretty much die whenever. The game even tells you to leave the building and leave the mission if you are at 0 sanity, so that kind of puts a cap on how long you can be in there. Now there are sanity pills that can hide your sanity, that way you avoid dying, but in the early stages it's really hard to get since they do cost $45, and that's a good amount. It seems to me that the sanity meter goes down way too fast for somebody who wants to get every single objective, and while I'm sure it is going to be easier to get more money the higher you level up and the harder jobs you get, it is annoying to me, and I feel like I never enjoyed that part of the game. I feel like this is one of the main points in the game that can be improved on in the future. Now let's talk about the equipment. So like I said before, you can purchase equipment before the job to try to get the job done, but a lot of these things seem to be useless. The usefulness of the item that you can buy varies extremely, and it is so important to know what you're buying before you buy it. Something like the strong flashlight is honestly the best thing in the game and changes the game up completely, while on the other hand you can buy something like the glow stick, which is almost useless to be honest. So you have to make sure to do your research on the items before you end up playing, because you don't want to spend your hard-earned cash on something that you're never going to use. But for the most part, you always have some kind of item to help you find evidence. What sucks, however, is that to find other kinds of evidence, you are going to need to buy certain things. Which means that if you don't buy the right equipment and read the briefing before, then you might not have the tech that you need to find the evidence that you need to find out what type of ghost you're dealing with. Now a mechanic that I didn't like at first but I ended up loving is the fact that you have to go back and get all your stuff before leaving. So whenever you buy items, you don't buy them for just that one job. You can actually keep it forever as long as you don't die, or as long as you bring it back inside the truck with you. So yes, you can actually keep your items if you bring them back inside the truck before you leave, but this adds a whole extra layer to the dimension of the game. A lot of the times you're going to set up all your equipment inside to try to find evidence of a ghost, and if you're there long enough, somebody might end up dying. Yes, the ghost can actually kill you. Whenever this happens, everybody tends to run outside and try to get in the truck as fast as possible. Now usually when someone dies, everyone's sanity is pretty much almost at 0, so anyone can die at any time, so everyone's afraid to go back inside the house. Now what sucks about that is that if you have equipment in there, you're going to want to go get it, because if you don't bring it back inside the truck, you're going to have to rebuy it all over again. And with a small amount of money you make in this game, that's going to take at least 3 or 4 games to get everything back. So you don't want to do that, and you want to make sure that you get everything. And nothing is better than walking back inside the house over the fresh corpse of my homie, trying to pick up all my shit before the ghost kills me too. Now, since the game is in early development, there are some bugs in the game, but most of them are not too important or change the way the game is played. You do have instances of you dropping items and they glitch through the floor so you can't get them, and that's not too big of a deal. You can just buy them back, and it has happened only about once or twice, but note that it did happen. Also, notice how I meant most glitches don't break the game, because there is one that we encountered that did. There was a glitch on one of the maps, on the house map to be exact, where the ghost became visible and it just kind of followed my friend around the entire game. Now I don't know if it was because of the crucifix or because of the game being glitched, but the ghost never seemed to attack anybody and it never really showed any other signs. And that kind of killed the immersion for us, because we kind of saw the ghost walking around and doing nothing, and we couldn't really finish the game because the ghost wasn't doing anything. So we kind of had to end the game there and start over. Now out of the entire week of playing, that seems to be the only time it ever happened, but just be aware that this can happen, and I'm sure it will be fixed in the future. Also, on a terrifying note, the ghost was visible and it was following my friend the entire time. So if my theory is correct, the ghost is always following somebody, and that's extremely terrifying, and I wish I did not know that. Now we get into the replayability, and this game has a lot of replayability, especially if you have really fun friends to play with. While the game can start off a bit slow at times and the ghost might not be too aggressive, the game always ends up in a rush to get out of the house pretty much as the ghost tries to kill one of us. And due to the RNG of the ghost, and the ghost is an AI and can act in different ways every time, it is almost always a different experience, and it is a lot of fun to play. Not to mention that there are different levels, different equipment that you can experiment with, and they are going to be developing the game, so I'm sure they'll be adding more stuff in the future. So in conclusion, if you are on the fence about Phasmophobia, it is only a $12 game, so if you have anybody to play with, anybody at all, 2 to 3 people max, then I would suggest that you do pick up the game because it is extremely cheap and it is a great experience, which I'm sure will get better as the game develops over time. And even if it is one of those games that you only play for a week or two, $12 is a great price for that kind of experience, especially now when games haven't been that good. This has been the Kira. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys do want to watch me stream this game live, I do stream almost every night on Twitch. I will leave that in the description below. I also play Valorant, Apex, Phasmophobia, amongst other games that seem like fun. So let me know if y'all want to join. We'll hope to see you all there. If y'all want to get to know me, I do get to know all my subscribers there, at least the ones that go, and I do answer questions and all that good stuff. Also, if you guys want to see my first impressions of the game, I did upload a video on that. Anyways guys, hope y'all enjoyed the video. Hope y'all enjoyed the game if you do decide to get it, and I will see you all in the next one.